All right, so I'm starting my stream a little later tonight. Um, Actually, I can take these off because I'm probably not going to be conversing with anyone or anything on stream. So I was going to stream today. We had Artcasters on Wednesday. We usually do it on Thursdays, but we did it on Wednesday. And I was about to go live. I was all set up to start flat coloring. And then I noticed that Jeff Lafferty was streaming. So I went ahead and watched his art cast, which he was the first of the art cast. And so I caught like the latter end of that before getting to work. And it was fun. It was a really interesting conversation, a lot of cool stuff. I can't wait to kind of go back and listen to like the beginning half of it because I like Jeff and Jib. So yeah, it'll be fun to kind of listen to what they have to say and like what all they're talking about on their stream at the beginning. I know the latter half was really fun. That being said, who am I? I'm Joshua Kemble. I'm an art director and illustrator and graphic designer. Been doing that for over 15 years professionally. And when I'm not graphic designing, art directing, or anything like that, I'm making graphic novels, which you can check out links to below. My latest graphic novel that's coming out in, my goodness, June 7th is Jacob's Apartment, which is a graphic novel that's like done in kind of the vein of like Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind or Ghost World. And this is going to be a much shorter stream because I have a hard out at like 2 a.m. So yeah, so let's get into it. So basically what I was working on while I was listening to Jeff's stream, because sometimes it's fun to like kind of see what other people in our art community are kind of doing. And I encourage you guys to do that too. There's a really good community of cartoonists out there. Oh, and then Jake just said, check it out. Man, I owe you a Snuff the Rooster cover. And I did like strum it on my guitar today. I did a trial run of like the 5 seconds of the song I'm going to do for you, but I've started way too late, so I can't be playing guitar at like 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. at my house. So Jake, consider that a rain check till the next time. And then Philip said, "Hey, I was just about to hit the sack and saw him. I noticed that you were on. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining, guys. So as I was saying at the top, I was watching Jeff Lafferty's live stream and kind of doing that while flat coloring. I was about to go live and I'm like, I'll watch Jeff's because I really enjoy their streams. And now we're going to get into it. So what do I do on this stream? I'm working on Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And here is where we're at. So I finished pencils on page 8. And now let me get to the daily stream. So this is page 8 and where I'm at. I started flatting the page whilst listening to the art cast. And then Philip said, I look for you Tuesday. And then Jake said, save it for a rainy day time stream. Yeah, for sure. Maybe on the weekend, but I think it'll be hilarious. But Jake, I do owe you that song, so don't let me forget. But then Philip was saying, look for you Tuesday, but you weren't on that night. Yeah. So the one time I don't tend to stream is when I'm having to do like this is what I was working on Tuesday. And right now I'm just kind of working on trying to get through these flats. I think it actually came out pretty good. I'm really, I don't know, the whole process of making this comic so far has been really exciting. It's taking a little bit longer than I would like. But I always feel like, and I try to give this advice to people too. Like you should do your comics relatively quickly, but you know, if you can make it, you want to make it to a quality that you're really happy with. And it's like a fine balance of like maybe spending a little more time than, you know, you normally would, but also, spending less time so that they can achievably get done. So we'll see if this is sustainable for 200 and something pages for the next year. But so far, I'm feeling pretty good about it, and I'm making pretty good time. I think by this weekend, I should be able to get kind of where I need to be on schedule. So that being said, man, just the choice to draw backgrounds in a room um, is like that adds a lot of time. But I think it really does bring you into the environment and it makes it look much more real. Um, like environments on their own can say so much about a plot. And I think being that this is like a historical fiction book, it's like cool if you can kind of pull people into what the room actually looked like. I think that's just a really neat thing. And it might be kind of like an autistic thing on my part, but it's but it's like I really enjoy those details for, like I'm trying to hopefully make this in a way that like somebody who's familiar with the history of it would look at it. And even if I get some things wrong, they might be like, well, this is a pretty good attempt though. So we'll see how much that holds up. um so we're doing some hands and just flat coloring. For those of you who aren't familiar, well, I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar in the chats, but for those of you who aren't, what I'm doing is basically I've separated so the stuff that's happened off stream, some of this while I was listening to Jeff's stream today, is this. So basically, I've taken my black line art and separated out the white. And then I've basically made it its own layer, locked the transparent pixels. And right now we're kind of doing this. We're going through and sort of selecting out the different colors. And I'm trying to make sure that my character colors are the same. And I'm also noticing that I missed those speech bubbles. I'm going to have to fill those as white. But right now we're kind of deselecting. This is Robert's skin tone that we're kind of working through here. And what's neat is when you work in this process too, you'll notice like little spots where you missed. Like I think I missed his eyebrow. But anyhow, I will try to. I'm trying to stream as often as I work, but there are times where like I guess I'm like I do enjoy. I also enjoy listening to streams while I work. So much like I think you guys who show up in the chats, it's a nice thing to like hear other artists kind of working on stuff. And I think every once in a while, it's nice to like hear something other than the sound of my own voice. um, I will say I'm in a really good mood today. I I just had like a killer good day, like professionally, like at my day job as an art director, we had a big win that I can't get too heavily into. And obviously, when I'm doing these streams, I'm not like doing them as a representative of my organization or anything like that. But it's like it was a really excellent day. And then I'm working on comics, which is like the funnest thing. So I feel like something that's helped a lot with shifting my perspective or exhaustion is basically like just one of those scenarios of oh, hang on a second. So some of what like shifted my perspective on like working on comics lately has just been like the enjoyment of like finding like joy in the fact that like I actually like starting to accept the fact that I actually really like working on comics. Another thing that's cool is I did notice that like Jacob's Apartment went up in the sales numbers for pre-orders. And so I'm really excited about that. And we're getting closer to launch on that. So I'm really excited to kind of see that happen and to like be able to get to like TCAF, which I'm really looking forward to. Although again, I'm a little nervous about Toronto because like I still need to work out all the details and stuff. I think this happened with me with the publishing thing too, where there's like a weird thing that happens in art like, to me, TCAF is something I've wanted to do for a long time with comics, and it's a convention I've heard really great things about from a lot of cartoonists, especially when I lived in Portland. Like, that was like one of the places all the Portland cartoonists were like, "Dude, you got to do TCAF." Um, so I feel like it's like a fun kind of like goal thing, but it doesn't feel real. Like it the weird thing about art and opportunities in art and stuff like that that I've experienced throughout my career so far is that, like, whenever good things happen, they always feel like very surreal and almost fake until they actually happen. Like, even Jacob's apartment um felt kind of fake, and then I get these things from my publisher, and I'm like, holy crap, they're actually doing like advanced copies, right? And I'm like, this looks pretty good. And then I finally get the final copy, and it's like it's like a different kind of offset book, because it's like on the pre-press copy they just did like your typical glue bind on like the spine like that. And that's what you would see if you like went with like an offset printer on your own. But then on the I'm gonna grab it just because I'm nerded out by this. So then the final book arrives and it feels fake. Like, again, the whole thing feels fake until it actually starts becoming a reality. And then check this out. Boom. I don't know if you guys can see that, but those are signatures. Let me see if I can. So you'll see that let me see if maybe it's going to be hard to kind of point that out. But for a book nerd, it's a big deal. So the spine kind of has like these little loops on it. And what you'll notice is when you pick up like a book by Fantagraphics or something like that, you're going to tend to see that because it's a much more durable book and it's weightier and it opens more easily. And it's like a crap load more expensive on the binding. But it's like, that was when I saw that little thing on the spine, I was like, holy crap, like this is an actual book. Like, my point being, like, I don't know, like, it's hard to accept, like, for me, like, TCAF is something I'm excited about, and it's hard for me to kind of see it as a reality till I'm at TCAF. And then I think even then it'll be like, you know, it just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Maybe you guys have experienced that too, but I feel like anytime something good happens in art, it feels really weird. um, and it might be just because art is hard and full of a lot of stuff that comes up, and so when good things happen, you um, can kind of like forget to like celebrate them or be present during them or realize that they're good things because they just kind of feel like normal things because you're experiencing them. Um, Anyhow, that's a real long rant, but also keep in mind it's like 1 in the morning. But I guess what I'm getting at is, like, I've had, like, a surprisingly excellent, night, and day because of the fact that, and I think this has a little bit to do with, like, I think something I talked about before, um, I think I've talked about this, where I'm trying to approach sitting down to work with less of a grumpy attitude because it's something I'm choosing to do. And yet sometimes I'll kind of sit down to cartoon and it's a built habit. And it's kind of like the guy who like builds the habit of going to the gym, but you're like, oh, I got to work out. And it's like, I'm kind of trying to reframe my mindset on that and just accept the fact that I really enjoy the process. And I'm lucky to be able to sit down and work on comics. Oh, Philip was talking about hoping we could have connected last Tuesday. Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm pretty sure there will be time over the weekend to hopefully like have that conversation you wanted, Philip. And he said maybe let me know if maybe in the following weeks we can try again. Yeah, I'll definitely give you a heads up because I think that conversation will be really cool. I think Philip was kind of wanting to have a conversation about some stuff regarding like publishing and stuff like that, and I think that would be a really great Great one to have. So I gotta say, yeah, just I don't know. I don't know if that if any of that makes sense, but I'm also really in the zone kind of flat coloring these pages. Right now I'm doing the color of the jacket for Robert. But I don't know if you're like aware of well, of course you guys are aware. I don't know, there's like this cool zone you get into when you start making something and seeing it actually come to life. It's pretty exciting. So, I don't know. I feel pretty good about that. I don't have like a ton to talk about today. There's stuff I'd like to talk about that I probably shouldn't talk about on a stream that was like really good stuff. Um, but it was definitely one of those days where there's been like a lot of good rewards for a lot of hard work that kind of goes on behind the scenes. Um, that's not like my comic stuff, you know, but still feels good. It feels good to get a win every once in a while. Jake was saying, I've been in the same thought pattern of accepting oneself in art, and why I don't enjoy it is because I think I'm too self centered making it. Yeah, I think that, I mean, I'm not saying that sounds really bad for me to be like, yeah, like as if I'm like, yeah, Jake, you are. No, I don't know how you are, but I relate to that, is what I mean by the yeah. Because it's like, I, I think sometimes you can kind of forget how fortunate we are to be able to make art, you know? And then also like there's a lot of artists out there who like they're stuck doing commercial art and no matter how hard they try to build a habit, they just either aren't able or like they just like need to hustle and like make whatever's going to make money. And so like even having a window of time, or like in my case, like like my wife is incredible and supports me um in what I do, meaning like she's okay with like, me staying up till like 2 in the morning working on comics because she understands like this book is worth um something, and like even knowing somebody who's an artist who like will kind of work with me on that schedule on top of like, me being gone and having a long commute for my day job, it's like that is a huge thing to be like really thankful for, and like it's like tacking onto what you were saying, Jake. It's like I agree with you. I think like when I get in that mode of like, oh, I don't want to work on comics, how do I work on comics, it's like I'm forgetting all the blessings that come with this, like, and how like there's a lot of things I'm like taking for granted when I have that kind of attitude. And it can be exhausting and a lot of hard work, but I mean that's what we're signing up for when we're making art. I feel like it's kind of like if you sign up for a battle, like the War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, which I always mention that book, but it's like I think that analogy of making art to like kind of go into war, although it's hyperbolic, it kind of makes sense like in a mindset standpoint too, because if you go into battle and you choose to do it, it's not going to do you any good to be like complaining the whole time you're there. Like, yeah, sure, have some like gallows humor when you're in there. But like if you signed up for it and you opted for it, like the only thing that's going to really help in that kind of scenario is to like have a good attitude about it. Try to keep a positive mindset because dude, like anyhow, so I guess my point is like that's what I'm thinking more and more, and I had a noticeable difference today when I'm like, I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the book. Um, I'm catching myself when I say like, ugh, like I think today I was like, uh, I caught myself like telling my wife, I think like right before, because she went to bed at like 10 or something like that. I was like, man, I just want to sleep. It actually sounds really nice to just kind of sit down and sleep. but I really got to go to do comics. And then I was realizing, wait a minute, no. I caught myself. Like I was like, no. I actually want to work on comics. Like I want to do this. I'm excited about how it's coming out. I think I'm making something good. And you know, yeah, I don't know. So that's kind of like where I'm at on it. But again, I don't have like a ton of, of stuff to say. Um, outside of that, other than like, I guess, I think like self-talk has a lot to do with art. It's like half of the process of art, as like corny and like woo woo as it can sound, is like um trying to kind of fight defeatism, because like at the end of the day, like um if you don't think if you aren't like deluded enough to think that you can finish a graphic novel, then you're not going to finish a graphic novel. And I just think, I don't know, that might be like a good thing to keep in mind for myself, at least, so I don't like fall down some like self-fulfilling prophecy, especially when there's good things happening. um and also, honestly, dude, the first job I ever had was like working graveyard shifts at like an AM PM, like, and so like that's a good thing to remember too. I know some people maybe like had like different backgrounds or whatever and didn't have to like work or whatever when they're, you know, I don't know, whatever. I was definitely not one of those kids who like didn't have to work going to college or whatever. And so I definitely had to like work and go to school, and like every dime I spent on college was like my own, or like loans that I had to take out that I'm still paying off, like that kind of stuff. Um, and even getting there wasn't easy, because I'd like work graveyard shifts and then like do classes that worked around like crazy graveyard shifts. Um, and like, working different crappy jobs like all over the place, like as a young man, it's like, I need to remember that because I've been working in creative for so long. It's like it took a long time to get there where I could like not be working like some odd crappy job, like doing, like cashiering or like working registers or working in warehouse, like doing shipping and receiving. Like I mean, I've worked like a million, kind of working in a call center. Like, I have to remember that. Like it's important to remember that, because it's like if I compare what I'm doing now to that, this is just like a completely cool job. Like my day job is cool, my job after my day job is cool, and it's kind of insane. Actually, it's insane that I wouldn't like um sorry, I'm rambling here, but it's fascinating to me that like I forget how cool that is. Um, as nerdy as that is. Anyhow, that's something I'm gonna try to remind myself of. Just because, um, speaking of, this flatting is gonna take. I'm hoping to finish this by 2, but unfortunately, like everything takes longer. I thought I would finish this page like a day earlier than I did. Um, the penciling of it. Um, I will say, we had a really good art casters yesterday too, and we had Chase on, and you guys should check it out. He's like a younger artist, and he's definitely hung out like in the chats here and stuff. But just check out, I think it's on Corey's channel, but check it, I also have a playlist on my channel of art casters. I'd watch that because that actually also can kind of help you. You know, I don't know, like at least for me, that helped me really appreciate where I've come from. Like, because it's like seeing a young artist who's like really inspired and kind of overcoming obstacles and starting to make that push. And probably in like a way more ambitious and talented way than I was at his age. I mean, like he's crazy talented and driven, like way more driven, I think, than I was. Um, it's super inspiring, and I think can be really good. And I'm hoping, I don't know, if you guys are listening in the chats, let me know if I'm making any sense. This might be like one of those sleepy, rambly rants that doesn't quite piece together into coherent thoughts, like because I'm also like really aiming to get these flats done, but I do think it's an important idea. Like, I don't know. The talk you give yourself and other people, and that's another thing too. I need to be careful with other people too. Like if I'm talking about other people, I need to be building up. Um, it's just something like that's good to remind, myself of, and I think other people, because I think like building up is like a much more, it's a harder thing to do, to build people up than tear them down. But then if you spend your time, and this I'm talking to myself here, kind of, but it's like if I spend more time like crap talking, or like even like thinking negatively about other people or something like that, it's like what that's going to reflect in is like me thinking that way about myself, right? Um, but if I start looking for like, you know, the 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 good qualities in other humans, then like I might start, that practice might get kind of slightly addictive for myself. Um, and I don't know. Something I've been thinking about lately. I also definitely don't think this applies to everything in life. Like I think there are times where you're just not like, being a person who's had like depression and stuff like that. It's like, you know, I don't know. It's definitely not one of those full scenarios of like every day I don't like, magically. I don't think every scenario is like something you can just kind of brush off and be like, well, if I look at this positively. I do think your mindset has a lot of control over the gratitude you feel for the things you have. And I think that gratitude, as corny as it is going to make a massive difference in your viewpoint, of like the other people in your lives, the people in your circles, like the things that you are lucky to have, and like, I don't know. I think it can lead to more contentment. That's my theory. And I'll probably fail at having like, this super, like, who knows, where that'll lead. Maybe tomorrow I'm in like a crappy mood or something. But right now I think, oh, it's funny. Scott also talked about this on his channel, Scott Circland, um, where he was talking about like the importance of like celebrating successes. And I agree with that 100%. Like, I feel like either way, like if you have a success, like sometimes why people won't celebrate a success of theirs is like a fear of it going away, or like it being temporary, or like maybe they get too excited and then the other shoe drops or something. And it's like, well, that does no good, because like at the end of the day, like, let's say you get super excited and celebrate like a win, and then you lose, and then you feel bad because you lost or whatever. Well, like you're gonna feel bad anyway. And now you've just felt bad twice, rather than like once, where you could have had that joy of like kind of enjoying the good things, and sort of, you know feeling the losses. It's like, I don't know. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm kind of starting to think. But I'm also in like a weird, sleepy, hippy dippy mood, because when it's like 1 in the morning, I suddenly become like peace, love, and understanding hippie or something. um, so let's see here. But I don't know. I think it's worth thinking about. Uh, did I show his? Did I ever show? Okay, cool. We haven't seen his bow tie. I think his bow tie is going to be more on that bluer range. Like the bow tie should kind of match the shoes. What color are the shoes? Okay, perfect. And the hat. So it's going to tie it all together. I mean, this is a gentleman who is a poet, so he can definitely match his clothes, you know. I would think he can kind of make some aesthetic choices um, that will lead to some aesthetic successes. I do think on a previous page, maybe it was page 6. No, it was page 5. I got to see page 5 now. Let's pull open page 5. I like that. I didn't sign up for it as more it shows me, and if I'm voluntarily dragged in, that's strangely good, all things considered. Yeah, there's routine, discipline, and development. I like that. Well said, Jake. And I guess what I'm also just kind of getting at is like, I okay, so not to get into too much, but like, my grandparents all died when I was relatively young, but I still remember really vividly, as a young man, seeing one grandparent, um, and I'm not going to name which one or anything like that, but it's like one grandparent had kind of like an optimistic viewpoint in life, like, and it wasn't like this like delusional optimistic one. It's just like, um, he would get like excited about like buying a different kind of bread or like something just, kind of like what a lot of people would consider just mundane, but he just kind of enjoyed a lot of like mundane things, like in sincerely, like he was just like, he'd really enjoy conversations with people. He just really valued um the time and what he was given. And it's not like he was loaded or anything like that. He just like had a good outlook. And in a weird way, he aged well because of it. Like, um he had just a better like better health later in life. I also saw another, grandparent, and it was like two of them, both grandpas, and it was like at a when I was, and this is when I'm really little, but I'm like witnessing these two different processes of aging and death, right? Um, that grandpa got a little bitter as he got older, and I still remember as a kid, like there was like a Christmas where he got like a sweater and he was like really upset. Um, but he just kind of was really upset about a lot of things. He was kind of looking at all the things in his life that had gone wrong and sort of not looking at all the things he had going for him. And he didn't have a great, I'm not saying like this is guaranteed, but I'm just saying like it wasn't fun to see the toll that took. Um, and it's interesting to me because I can look at that and think, hey, you know what? Like generationally, like some of that's in me, right? Like, I mean, it's like, you know, I have both. I have both sides of like which option I could go. But when I'm cognizant enough and present enough to kind of like think of the two, it's like it's not a hard choice. It's like I've seen what bitterness and like envy um and like looking at all the things that I don't have and looking at the things that other people do have and getting just like consumed with like feeling like I somehow got the short end of the stick. Even if some of those things are true, I don't know. I've just seen what that results in. And I mean, that crap causes like heart attacks and like anger and honestly, just like it's just a harder way to go. And as I'm starting to get older, I'm like, I have to think about those things more, It's like these things have consequences. And um to me it's like rambling, but it's just something on my mind where it's like I don't know. If I'm gonna have to pick between what I saw as a kid, like with my grandparents, it's like my grandfather, because I was like probably about 8, I think, by the time like my last grandparent died. Wait, no, sorry, my the happier grandpa actually. Why am I saying it like they died when I was young? The happier grandparent actually lived till I was in my 20s, so he was the last standing. So I think actually, to be honest, like I think that uh that might have been why he was the last standing. He just had a really awesome attitude about life, and I think it helped him. You know, and it's weird because he had a bunch of reasons to like. That's also the grandfather that was in World War II, and so it's like he had a lot of reasons to probably be like bitter about stuff. But I don't know. So that's my little rant. Um, and I have no idea if that makes any sense. Because I'm really like, at this point, I'm very much talking off the cuff. Um, let's see here. I feel like I've missed some stuff. Okay, so I missed her hand here. Her hand. So I'm curious how everything's going for you, Jake. How's the comic shaping up? I'm gonna have to adjust that too. I think there was like a layer that got flattened in there, and I want to correct that overlap there. It's a little strange. Have like an artifact on the room. The room. Okay, so I'm gonna do the curtain is red. Here's another thing that's been on my mind too is like uh being able to like kind of get these things done. Not only is it like a blessing, but it's like who knows like what like maybe not everyone um like there might be people that are trying equally hard and just don't have it in them to like sit with like a long form project like this. And it's like I could look at that one of two ways, right? I could look at it like, oh man, well I'm just cursed with this like desire to work on these long form comics. Or I could look at it like, what a cool, weird, quirky thing about my personality that allows me to do these weird, crazy indie comics that I love doing and I love reading. And how cool is it that I can participate in that? So, rambling, positivity. I know that doesn't always work for like clicks or whatever, but that's what I'm feeling right now. Maybe tomorrow I'll I don't know, get angry or something. um my son's starting to draw a lot recently. That's been really fun to see. Like really fun to see. It's just like it's interesting to see him get like super creative and like start drawing more and more, working on more and more kind of like creative projects. Um, his imagination's like going nuts, like in a good way. Um, I don't know. It's been really fun. So there's that. That's something else that's been really fun to watch. Um, I need to get that bow tie. Can't believe I forgot the bow tie, and I forgot the other. What's great is a lot of this room is already decided for me, considering the last page. So there was that overhead shot we did of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And so it's just a lot of this is just kind of making the selections. that I otherwise made. The downside is it's making the selections that I otherwise made, which can be less like thrilling. Jake said, moments of clarities amidst the slog are great. Yeah, it's nice to have it, you know, and it'll come and go. It's like, it's kind of like, I feel like that's a truer, to me, I think that's a truer sense of, I think today I'm like closer to something truer, um, than on days where maybe I'm not feeling it, you know? I also think, okay, I did. I was like, I think that's the wrong color for that. There we go. Let's do some bow ties, guys. Bow ties and what else? I think the bow tie, yeah, he's a classy guy. He's gonna have his bow tie match. And I think that when you take on a project, I've seen this in workplaces too, where like, um, if you start off like a team project or something with like the assumption that like failure is just going to happen, um, and you're kind of defeatistic about it, um, you can kind of seal your own fate, and you can watch it happen when you're watching like groups of people like work together. It's like, it's nerdy, but it's like part of why businesses do like those the corny like group building activities and stuff like that, is like it creating a delusion, um creating a delusion. It's hard to explain. It's like, it's not necessarily the case that like if you go into like a team building thing or something, that everything in it is like not a delusion. Like it's just a really powerful one. Like meaning, if enough people believe it, and I think I was talking about this on Artcasters with Chase, where there's this weird thing in art that happens, like that's similar to like if you're playing basketball. Um, and I sucked at basketball, but I still, you know, I mentioned this, but it's like I definitely had times where like I don't know why, because I did play it a lot when I was a kid, and there were just these days where you would like every shot you took, you just nailed. And a lot of it had to do with just being in this like state of mind where you just knew you could make the shot. Like you just knew it. And if you miss a shot and you can keep in that state, like you make more shots than you miss. Yeah, as long as you're practicing and improving your craft and stuff. But if you go into like a shot and you're just like, this is going to miss, your odds of missing are like so much higher. And I'm sure, I'm like, I don't even know if I'd need to look it up. And I don't really honestly have the time to look it up, but I'm pretty darn sure that there's probably research to back that. Like people who go into something with a sense of defeat are probably more likely to be defeated. I mean, it's part of why, like, you know, boxers and stuff, before they go into a match, they try to like demoralize their opponent. Like they try to freak them out. They try to make them second guess themselves. Because when that happens, like, guess what? Like you box worse, right? You're more psyched out, so you're gonna do worse. Um, and again, like I'm thinking about that for myself. Like it's a good thing to be aware of, because it's like, what am I telling myself when it comes to art? Like, what are we as artists telling ourselves? Are we setting up our own defeat, or are we like making, you know? But I also don't want this to sound like mindfulness and nonsense, you know. Jake said, I was having a fit with Webtoons a few days ago. I had to delete the whole half a year of buffers because they can't put stuff in the middle of fixed dates because they're out of order. No. Okay. I don't know how you spin that positively. That sounds absolutely frustrating. Um, and I will say, man, like call center type frustrations, um, like I don't know if that makes sense. Like the type of frustrations where it's like something technically wrong that's like computer related. For me, that's probably my weakest area for like trying to stay positive or something like that because man, I just it's hard to think of something more frustrating than like spending a bunch of time on a website, trying to upload stuff and then having it crash. It's kind of like working on a Photoshop file that just crashes and you didn't hit save. And you're like, oh crap. I don't know. Those are hard times to be like optimistic or whatever, you know. Um, so sorry to like plague you with optimism, Jake, while you're dealing with that. um, but I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about. And I'm a weird guy. I get like driven by two drives as an artist, and one of them more so, and I think more healthily than the other. One of the drives was like totally that this is when I was younger, but that like toxic drive, which was like it can be really a powerful one though. So I don't know if I should call it toxic because it works. um but I've always been a guy who like if somebody second guessed me or didn't believe I could do something, that would drive me to kind of like almost like it's like the FU drive where it's like, oh yeah, like so that's been a strong drive of mine, especially as a young man. Like when I was like late teens, early 20s, that was definitely a drive where I was just like, I'm gonna prove people who doubt wrong, that kind of thing. And there was a lot buried in that. Um, I don't think that gasoline, like, honestly lasts as long as in the tank. What I find to be the most now is just like kind of like more of like, you know, man, this is really gonna sound corny, but like believing in yourself a little bit, having a little faith in the process, having a little faith in your capability to kind of improve and get better, and also having faith in. And this is weird too, because some of this just comes with time, where it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't think of the last time. I don't know. It's like if you, when was the last time you've had somebody say something that was so off about you that it wasn't even offensive because you're just like, oh, you just clearly don't even know who I am, right? Um, I have moments like that now more often, especially with and not like a do you know who I am? It's just like people who don't realize like even about my biography, it's like a lot of people, um, who might make like judgments about me may have no idea that I literally worked graveyard shifts at a gas station and got robbed at gunpoint and like, at 20. It's like in a really bad neighborhood. Like I'm not like some like entitled like rich kid who like grew up with like a silver spoon and like I didn't have it as bad as other people, but it's like when I hear people like if I'm talking to somebody and they treat me like that's where I'm coming from, that used to like set me off. Like that would make me so angry. Because I was an angry young man, like early 20s, late teens. I think there's a lot of like anger at least, maybe I'm just like was a worse person than a lot of people, but I kind of think this might be more common than not. Whereas now it's like if I hear somebody saying that kind of thing, I'm just like, you just have no idea who I am. Like, and not like a do you know who I am? It's just like you just don't know where I come from. So like why should I believe anything you're saying, you know? um, about like what like even somebody who's doubting what's possible. Like as I'm doing this book, I have no doubt. I haven't really heard anyone or talked to anyone who thinks this book's impossible, but I have no doubt that there's going to be people, including myself, who might be like, yeah, I don't know if this is possible because it's like a couple hundred pages in like a year. That's kind of nuts, you know. Like I don't, and also just seeing my own workflow and stuff like that. That's kind of nuts. But so was like working from like 11 to like 6 in the morning and then at 6 in the or at 7 going to college classes. I'm like getting through that and like doing that full time and also doing that with a bike like and not even having the money to afford a car. Um so there's that, it's like that's kind of like a good thing. So anyhow, I don't know. That's just something I guess what I'm getting at is like I've earned my own faith. Like I've earned faith in myself and in the God I believe in. Um, has been faithful to me where I have faith regardless of like someone else's doubt. Um, I don't know if that makes sense. And it might be weak faith, but hey, I'll take it. Um, and that helps. Like that helps me at least. I don't know. Today it's helped. It's been interesting. Because if I have self doubt, I can just remind myself of like that stuff, like my biography, you know? I think that's part of why like life is helpful. Like it's helpful to remember history, it's helpful to remember your own history. Don't self obsess about it or whatever, but it's like, you know, cheesy words don't work without the faith. Do you mean the grind set? Interesting. And he said, the you don't know me doesn't hit as much. There's been too much uprooting for me to even know myself, but um I'm the only one to know the full context and that others can't put themselves in. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I mean. I think there are people who probably know things about me that I don't know about myself for sure. Like my wife probably knows things about my own personality that like I don't even know, you know. Um, and actually has displayed that before where like if I'm having like a an issue trying to solve like a problem or something and I just kind of mention it to her, like she'll have like an insight about a way that I think that like I don't even realize about myself. And then when I think about it, I'm like, holy crap, she's like onto something that I don't even know, like and that's pretty cool that she knows me that well. Um I guess that's what I'm getting at is like, you know, i- i- it's uh it's one of those things of like trying to think of how to kind of describe it. It's like basically I can catch myself lying to myself sometimes where I'll be like, "Oh, this is too much," or like, "I'm not capable," or whatever. This used to happen a lot more. I think what made me think of this was that conversation with Chase too, because we were talking about like sort of when you're a younger artist and like you start getting, especially your first graphic novel. Like this is my third rodeo, so I'm not having these doubts as much. But it's like the first two, man, especially the first one. Almost every day was just riddled with like confusion and self-doubt, stuff like that. Um, but it's like now, first off, the fact that I've done two helps me feel like, okay, that doubt, like any doubt I'm gonna have about this being possible, I've disproven twice. So so there's that. that's helpful, right? Like for me to like quell some of the doubt because I'm like, okay, I've done it twice, so I can do it again. Um, I didn't have that, like, like I didn't have that tool till I kind of like struggled through all the doubt and stuff, and then did it, and then now I have that. So now I have that as a part of my biography that I can actually say, like, if I have self doubt, I'm actually being dishonest with myself. I don't know if that makes sense. So I think that's more what I'm getting at. Um, and I will say I do. I don't know what made me think of this. I think it's like um, particularly because I can be well spoken and I read a lot of books and stuff, and I'm a bit of a nerd. I think sometimes people will make an assumption that I come from um, a different stock than I do, like meaning like I don't know that I have a different biography than I do, and that to me is interesting. Like that's my point. Is like I think if someone like that were to like make a criticism of me as if I was like some silver spoon kid or something, um, that's where it's like that insult won't even work. Like it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't ring true. And like the stuff that hurts, like, man, uh okay, so if somebody wanted to take a dig at my art right now about something I don't feel good about is like it just takes me way too long to do art. So if somebody were like really be like say something hurtful but it had to do with like the time frame that it takes me to do art, that would be like a dig that might actually hurt, right? A little bit. Because it's like it's true. So it's like it's I don't know, that's the stuff that hurts. But like if somebody were to just be like, making fun of how quick I am at art or something, I'd be like, wow, you like that's not even gonna hit because it's not true. you know, I don't know if that makes sense. I think the truth hurts more, right? That's what I'm getting at. I'm just gonna talk in tropes today. But I think what you were saying kind of makes a lot of sense. What's the Johari window? I don't even know if I've heard of the Johari window. Oh yeah, that's true. That's cool. I can't really explain that in my head, but that's pretty cool. I'm gonna read more into that because there's definitely, like I said, there's people. If my wife were to say something about me, I'm gonna take it a lot more seriously than someone who doesn't know me, right? Like my wife knows me pretty well, and so if she makes like a criticism, I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna listen to it, right? Similarly, she also draws really well. So if my wife were to like look at my art, be like, I don't know, you got to work on these things or something like that. Like that's gonna cut a little deeper than somebody who doesn't know anything about art, like making a dig or something. Because it's like, again, it's like it comes with knowledge and like knowledgeable stuff. Man, that cuts deep, right? But that can also lead to like really cool things too, right? Like, you kind of want, like I have best friends and we know like my really close friends all know like those buttons that you like the thing that you could say that would just destroy the person. Like it's like it's just a thing that you acquire with people that you know really well. And it's like um and then part of the friendship is just like you kind of just don't dig into those things. But like only somebody who's like super in tune with that can kind of dig that deep. I don't know why that's on my mind. I think it's just like it's almost like I'm like arguing with the cynic in me. Like I tend to be I think my default is cynicism. And so, it's been an interesting ride, like, even a day like today where, like, I'm not feeling cynical. I've been, like, thinking positively about stuff, and I feel pretty darn good. So I kinda like that, and I kinda wanna keep that going. I don't wanna feed the monster, you know? Um, I also could, in theory, just sound completely nuts. Okay. Communication psychology tool. And I mean, I've definitely okay, so there are some things that are like totally observable to an outside viewer that people are not self-aware of. And you could have like 20 people pinpoint something that you're completely blind to. I don't know if that has anything to do with that window, but I definitely would acknowledge that's true. But I will say, like, in the process of art, like, there's usually like one of two people. People who have like a really big head about what they're doing and they're not really as good as they think. Um, and then people who like self doubt a lot and may not be really that great at acknowledging what they do. And you can't always read that from like the way people conduct themselves, right? Sometimes the really cocky people will come across as like really humble. Sometimes the really humble people will come out across as really cocky. It's just like a really weird thing. But I think that's like kind of the two uh polarities, I guess, in like art making. And then maybe there's just like people who've found that like beautiful zen spot, right? Where you're able to like um I don't know, just see what you got for what it is and like be content with that and kind of see it as a process, right? Like um but also just acknowledging that like life isn't always about like being the best and it's not always about making the most money um or like having all the cool things happen. Like I don't know. It's not always about that. Sometimes it's about just like, hey, I need to wake up and like survive today. And that's okay too. Those are like that's actually admirable, I think. My friend Alan wrote a really good book about that kind of thing. But I don't know, like I think we're all pretty able to kind of look at somebody, make a misjudgment, just be like, "Oh, that person's whatever," and like not realize like, um the complexity of like that person. I've probably made misjudgments about people before. I don't even know why that's on my mind. I'm kind of rolling with stream of consciousness here, Jake, so I'm hanging and um kind of going with where the random flows of thought go because I am definitely trying to also finish this very quickly. And I'm going to push it a little bit past 2 because I have to. I have to actually finish this page. It's not going to take that much longer though. And I love how this I don't know, this style's really interesting to me because it just starts to take form more and more um as is gone. Have you guys ever had the experience of like knowing somebody who's like super bitter all the time? Like, I don't know. Or like maybe caught yourself. Like, I don't know. It's an interesting to me it's an interesting thing to think about. I think about those two dichotomies of like perception quite a lot. Um, and again, I'm somebody who's like super prone to depression and stuff like that. So like I can go to that like dark place of like negativity pretty easily, you know. But I'm not talking like normal negativity. I'm talking like, you know, just like everything escalates to the uselessness of the universe kind of stuff. Like I can go there pretty quick. My brain can just hop there. It's like when it hops there, it feels really natural that it hops there, right? Um, so keep in mind, I am not trying to like um, be like me, be really positive all the time. I'm not trying to make that claim. I'm just saying like I've known people who like um will just sort of give into that or just go like super dark and like super um destructive, and it gets worse as they age, and it's really hard to watch. It's hard to see somebody go through that. And it's not like they have a false perception of things. It's just literally like the lens they're choosing to view things through. Now, I think a lot of the time, like a lot of thoughts, it's like nothing I'm saying here is being like super profound or anything. It's just something I'm thinking about. Um, okay. So top hat colors, and then I'm gonna take my trailer break. So for anybody who is unfamiliar with these streams, what I'll do at about the hour mark is play a trailer for one of my upcoming graphic novels. And yeah. So I think I will be first off, we're gonna do our the trick that I like to do with this, which is I'm gonna turn this to the stuff that I have yet to color is all magenta on this page. And I'm saving. And then I'm going to put on the trailer for my upcoming graphic novel, Jacob's Apartment. Ooh, Jake was saying I got one of those people in my life. It's agonizing. Yeah, it's sad, and it's like you can kind of see it, and it's like, yeah, like people can snap out of it when they're younger. Like I think some people can't, right? Like I mean, but I have seen people like kind of be able to change, but like people who have like refuse to kind of fight that. I think as they age, it doesn't go well if they don't start kind of shifting. It just doesn't. It's weird to watch. All right. I will be right back. I'm gonna go ahead and put on the I'm gonna put on the trailer for Jacob's Apartment, which is my graphic novel. That's basically a doomed romance story that's done in the vein of Ghost World and Fun Home. It's like, well, probably not so much Fun Home. I'd say like Ghost World and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where dreams and reality start interweaving in a young doomed romance coming of age story. And here is the trailer for it. And I will be shortly back. So, um, yeah, I don't know what to say about today. It's funny. It's just been like a really um enjoyable day. Let's see here. I'm really digging. It's weird, but it's like the process of like kind of being in this crunch and knocking out pages has been really fun. um, and so far, I think so good with like publisher feedback and stuff like that. And I really dig the story a lot. I think the story is really pretty rad. Trying to think of anything that has come to mind today. Um oh, I did have like a very brief time of like watching some TV today. I watched a documentary on like animals and stuff. And it was just like one of those like, you know, the Saharan like landscape and like how animals survive, like it was one of those really kind of corny like nature documentaries, I think on Disney or something. And dude, it was cool. It was like I was realizing that um I think hippos are pretty rad. Like they're terrifying and super dangerous, but they're like since I was a kid, I've thought like hippos were one of the coolest animals on the planet. So there's that. um, that was something that happened today. Let's see what else. I'm flat coloring. I'm feeling good about that. This is like probably my most boring stream yet. I have nothing really like negative to say. Um, I don't know. I just like it's been a good day and I'm kind of enjoying the art process. I think that might have also been part of why I didn't stream um, during some of the flats because I was more in a mood to just kind of like absorb other content. Like I didn't necessarily have a ton to talk about other than like kind of what I was doing. Jake just said, "Wow, Josh, you're zen." What does that mean? Yeah, it's. I think I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I've been just in the zone, drawing and enjoying it, and my autistic brain has like not been running a mile a minute thinking about like all the different things, and that's a little odd for me. Usually I'm always considering I don't know. I'm usually always thinking of something like 20 threads deeper than the thing I'm presently doing. So maybe that I think Jake might have been teasing, but my point is that's kind of weird for me. It's weird to get used to. And I hope I don't know. I hope that's I don't know. It's very strange. I think for anybody who's watched my streams, you might find that a little strange too. I don't tend to run out of things to talk about because my brain is usually going down different threads, and it's interesting to not see that happening. I will say Jeff's stream was talking about like Bigfoot, and that was really cool. When I lived in the Pacific Northwest, I think like 90% of the people I knew had like a Bigfoot story. And I don't know if that has to do with like supposedly Bigfoot. The most present area for like Bigfoot is supposed to be like the Pacific Northwest. I know there's reports like all over the country. Oh, holy moly. Dee Dee said, always, Dee Dee, how's it going? Long time no see. Yeah, we always have off schedules, so it's kind of fun when our schedules actually align. I'm hoping that Saturday, to do like maybe a morning stream or something would be fun. But yeah, I was thinking about I've been having the weirdest stream ever, Dee Dee. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Dee Dee. Dee Dee sent me morning coffee. I appreciate that. My goodness. Dee Dee, you're very generous. So I have been at an almost lack. Oh, Adam just joined too. How's it going, Adam? Long time no see. Well, I saw you in Jeff's chat briefly, but it's been a while. Yeah, I'm having a weird stream, you guys. I cannot explain it. Jake has been kind of walking through it with me, but I'm like oh no, I hadn't finished. There's something I got to fix too on this. I am usually like a person whose brain is just firing like a million miles a minute. And I'm not saying I'm smart. I just like, I think it's part of why I think I'm possibly autistic, right? Because like I will think of like one thing and then a thread will pop up and then a thread will pop up from that. And it's like, I'll be thinking about a million things. Today has been a day where I'm just feeling contentment. Yeah, Jeff's stream was awesome. I loved when they like I didn't get to catch the whole thing. I saw like the end half. But I think I came in about the time where they were talking about Bigfoot, and I was like, oh, so fun. Bigfoot, aliens, like it kind of it was a good thing to like flat color to where I'm at right now today, because again, I can't really explain it, but like I've just felt really good today. Like, not that I always feel bad, but it's just been like a day where like I'm present. I can't like I feel very lucky and blessed, and I've been enjoying the day. It's just been like there's nothing beyond that. It's a weird thing. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's been a weird. I don't know if Adam, if you've had days like that, and then streamed. It's like a really weird thing because I'm like I'm surprised, but I'm in the zone. I'm drawing. I have nothing much to talk about, which doesn't make for like the most interesting streams. But I'm like, I'm just really, yeah, I'm in a good mood. Okay. But that's like I guess for me, that's a little unusual because I'm usually very analytical and my mind is constantly racing and I'm busy. It's a very strange day. I'm not sure if we're going to finish flats tonight, you guys. Oh no. I really need to be on point. Let's see what time it is. You know what? I think I can go like I can probably get away with like 30 more minutes. Dee Dee said, the page is looking good. Love the coloring, Josh. So gothic. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going for that like Victorian Gothic kind of thing. Um, especially like this room sequence is like it's gonna have that kind of vibe. I'm really enjoying this style too. Like I think it works really well. It's I also like I'm a cynic quite a lot in my life. Like I can be somewhat like I have, my humor tends to stray towards like dark humor. Um so it's a weird thing for me to be like feeling good, feeling positive, not just feeling good and positive, but like uh feeling I think I talked about this at the beginning, but it's like I have absolute faith in um where I am put right now. And that's really a weird thing for me. I think Adam chimed in on that. Hold on a sec. He said, "Yeah, I have some days like that, but they're rare, like a rare day without severe depression and crippling anxiety." I'm on page 8, so I'm not like quite where I need to be, but I'm not like that far behind. I think that by like this weekend I'll be like in a really really good spot. And I'm the more I think about it, the more it's like I think this is going to be doable. Um, but yeah, it's just been a weird day. It's like, and situations have been pretty good today too, but I've like just felt overwhelmed with like thankfulness for like the day. Like the whole day has been really cool. Um, even my drive, like my commute was really cool today. I don't know. um, yeah, it's a bizarre thing. Also, I think for an artist, it's a little bizarre, right? 'Cause I don't know. I think even as artists, like some of the analytical brain is just the process of making art, right? You can't just make art and not be analytical. But it's like I don't know. I could also just be really tired, but oh yeah, Dee Dee mentioned the circle rug top left is nice now that it's set in the scene. Yeah, the one thing I noticed that I'm gonna have to rework is I missed the pattern on the blanket. And you know what's weird? That circle pattern is like it's so sad because my wife does not like circles. And when I saw that, like I think we were doing a stream when I saw it, and I was like, oh no. Like um because circle patterns are just not something she's a fan of. And I just thought that was like a weird historical irony that like I have to draw that that pattern. But I've done my best to try to kind of tone it back a little bit, so that hopefully my wife can read this book when it's done. um, yeah, let's see here. Yeah, Dee Dee said thankfulness is a big key. Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I think I was kind of realizing that like we're very fortunate to be able to draw. Like it's a pretty cool thing. Um, you know, it's just like a cool thing. It's a nice thing being able to draw. Um, and have the time to kind of work on stuff, even if it's like hard and hard to make time and stuff like. It's a pretty cool thing. So yeah, I the only thing that's funny is like I do have the ability sometimes to kind of step outside of myself, and I can definitely, as a person who's usually a little skeptical and cynical, I can understand where like listening to a stream like this would be maddening, where it's just like, oh, dude, come on, like you know. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say to that either. Um, Adam said the artwork's looking incredible, especially for something you were kind of saying might not be as technically skilled as your other stuff in the amount of time you have. Yeah, it's kind of weird. At I don't know if you guys have found this, but like it is weird to me that like there's certain styles that look harder, or they look like they're more time consuming, and they're not. um but also some of that might just be me coming up with that like thing I was talking about on Artcasters a couple days ago, where it's like you kind of almost have to have like amnesia and just forget like forget the time you're putting into something. um I will also say, these have a little bit more complicated of backgrounds. The fun backgrounds will be the ones where I'm not like beholden to a description of the room. Um, and this, it's like, because it's somewhat documented. We went through the research together on it, but it's like there's enough of an indication of what her room's going to look like, where it's like I don't want to be that guy who's like, just totally throwing out the history. Because I feel like somewhere out there, there's going to be somebody who's like a huge Elizabeth Barrett Browning like historian, who like, or like maybe they're a fan and they've like read everything they could about this person, and then they pick up our book. I would hate to like have that person be like super bummed about this book. You know what I mean? So like I want to at least do my due diligence to where, hey, if they're bummed about it, at least I can say I did my best effort. Um within reason. I mean, I think I've said this on streams before, but if my friend David Chelsea like dissected these pages, um uh my cheats and my bad perspective like stuff would just be like the most obvious thing in the world. But it is neat how like just having, and you guys know this from doing art, but just having that pencil texture, like being able to have like a variety of grays, it's just it's inherently going to go quicker, to shade, because it's like you can kind of do with like a couple passes what would take like 10 years to do in like cross hatching. you know um but yeah, I'm pretty happy with the style. I'm excited about it. I feel like I'm on to something. um and maybe that's delusion, but I enjoy it. It's fun to feel like you're onto something, like, okay, this is a thing. And also it helps that I have kind people like you and Dee Dee showing up, um and Jake showing up in the chats and hanging out with me and keeping me company while working on this stuff. That's been so fun. Like, that's another thing I'm feeling thankful for. Like, I think it's really cool that like uh that I have some people keeping me company and maybe working on art with me. It's kind of fun. But yeah, so I'm doing some quick workarounds, but I think you guys are aware of that. It's like you can kind of do stuff with like a pencil, like we all had like, the like rendering assignment or whatever, when we're kids, and like not and it, what I call a kid isn't really a kid, but it's like where you get like a pencil and you're like, you know, like it's just really familiar ground like to work in that medium. So I'm enjoying that. Like I'm enjoying the flexibility of it, and the speed with which I can tone the page is like really quick. Um However, the flats are going to take less time than Jacob's apartment because they're mostly flat. Although I might see, this is my problem. I keep going a little further. Like on the page with Elizabeth, I think I added a light source that was white, which is like adding a little bit of time to the process. So maybe I'll just keep carving that and it won't be simpler, but so far it's felt like a simpler process than and I also researched, by the way, some of the dinners at the time, and these are like two very popular dishes. And you know what's sad? I don't remember what they were called. But I think one of them is like beef, um, and like carrots and like round potatoes. Like I think maybe russet potatoes. And then I can't remember what that is. Is it like if it's a pudding? I know it's like surrounded by like corn. But anyhow, these were like very common for like the wealth class, um, that that the Barretts were in. Flatting a latex suit? Huh. I wonder what that means. That sounds kind of cool. What are you drawing right now, Adam? It'd be cool to see. And how is Toad Road coming? I think I've told you, Adam, but it's like since our streams, like I've done like a much deeper dive into some of the lore of Brett, and that's been fascinating. Because like again, I kind of like didn't know anything about the dude, and then through like your streams and some interactions and stuff, and now I am like very familiar with like the legend. And I have to say it's entertaining as hell. So um yeah, anyhow, thanks for uh introducing me to that. I don't know how to say it. It's interesting. It's super fascinating. I kind of I've been getting a kick out of it. Um Oh, Jake was saying flatting a latex suit. Okay. That's cool. I'm excited to see what like I'm excited to see Bone Meal come into Webtoons. I'm excited to see what else Jake is working on. What are you working on, Dee Dee? I'm guessing some art. It'd be cool to hear what it is. And if you guys are watching this, by the way, in the morning, then you guys should check out Dee Dee's stuff. Check out Jake. Check out Adam's stuff. They make good art. It's kind of fun. It's nice community of creators here. Adam said, I haven't been very productive. My computer broke and I lost a lot of momentum on my comic. Oh my gosh, your computer breaking down. That sucks, man. That is brutal. I was just saying that at the top of this, that as positive, I think I was saying that to Jake, but it's like, um, I was saying like as positive as I've felt today, like the one thing that I have trouble with is like whenever I experience like computer issues, it's like I can't explain it, but like it's hard to feel anything positive about computer issues. They're just super frustrating. I don't know why those in particular are just like, ugh. But I don't envy that situation, and that sucks. And then also, Adam said Brett and I have been getting along well recently. Cool. Let's see here. I just was surprised to like get caught up on all the lore because I'm not always like familiar with like internet stuff. So it's been a journey that I think was worth going down. Okay. I think I want the this is gonna be hard to figure out. I do. I think I want that to be the same color of rug there. So this the thing that's gonna suck about this is, like, it's gonna be really hard to, it should okay, whatever, I'll stay positive, but it's gonna be really hard to flat that bookshelf. And then Dee Dee said, I just finished coloring a page from a Polish artist coloring book and a little 6x6 collage all on Instagram. Always something and inspiring others on my streams twice a week. Yeah, Dee Dee's awesome. Yeah, it's a fascinating history, and it's like, man, I mean, the dude's made a mark on the internet. um, so let's see here. What color did I have that? Is that the same? Brown? I think it is. That's what we'll use. Is there any more to it? Nope. Okay, so that's going to be a flat brown around the plate. Do. We can make that happen. Yeah, so one of the things, this is going to be weird, but one of the things that made me think about the, like, I don't know why it came to mind. I've been reading like these, kind of kids versions of Bibles to my kid, right? Because I want him to be familiar, and obviously I want him to make his own choice, with what he believes and stuff like that. But I want him to be familiar, so at least he knows what he's choosing. And of course, I definitely have a bias in what I'd want him to choose, but still, it's like no one can choose for you, right? Um, but anyhow, so like we got to like sort of the wandering from Egypt story, and it reminded me of that because I spend a lot of time, especially recently, in the New Testament. I think as an atheist, I spent a ton of time in the Old Testament, but as a Christian, I do spend time in the Old Testament, but tends to be like in like Ecclesiastes. Um, so a lot like quite often I'll neglect some of the like Exodus or like like not early Genesis, but like late Genesis. You know, I don't know. Exodus is like one of those books I haven't read in about a year. And so it was fun to kind of go through this recap with my kid and start thinking about in the story, it's like these people have been freed from slavery and are like wandering around a desert and they're unable to get like they're aiming to get to the promised land, right? And they aren't able to get there. But as they're wandering, it's like they literally have like manna. Anybody like even remotely familiar with like even like the movies about this should be familiar with the story, but still, whatever. I'm going through it. So they're getting just flooded with manna provided by from God, and yet they're like complaining the whole time as God is like constantly just doing miracle after miracle to like keep these people sustained and alive. Um, and it's like this is constantly happening to the point where like that's what leads to like the Ten Commandments like kind of being broken is just like Moses just super upset. Um, getting super upset because he's like trying to lead these people and all they're doing is like grumbling and complaining like the whole time. And this isn't a profound thing, I think, for like a Christian to kind of think, but it dawned on me that I'm doing a bit of that in my life recently. I have like some really cool things that I think have been kind of like, yeah, I've worked and stuff like that, but like it's also um it's also reliant on the grace of God and just like what God has provided me with, that like I have no basis to be like complaining about the manna that I'm being fed or whatever, you know? I don't know if that makes sense. It's like it, it's kind of awesome that that's even happening. I don't know. I think that's why those stories exist. I don't think they're to be like look back and go like, "Oh, these people were terrible." It's like more like to see the commonalities in ourselves and like just realize like I'm not that much different, you know? Like I'm not much different than those people. like um I I often will catch myself being like, "Oh man, this is just the manna that I'm being provided for with." Like, and I do that all the time. I think we all do. Or it's like we take advantage of the fact that we're breathing. Like breathing is a freaking cool thing. People who are not able to breathe are really going to be either dead or really jealous of people who can breathe, right? There's so many like just things that are like really cool and you're given today, and it's like, and I should be super jazzed about that. Like the fact that I can do this and then I have time to do art. Um, and instead I can be like, well, I'm not getting paid to do my art, you know, like, no, look, I have time to do this. I have like a family that supports me doing this. Like they like back me up. Like they're interested in, you know, like my wife's okay with like me doing this. Like even though it takes me extra time and you know, it's like I have I started the stream with this kind of thought, but anyhow, it all started with that thought, you know. But that came from reading to my kid. I, um, it was just a cool thing where I was like, dude, I don't think about that enough, you know? Like, I've had that thought before. I just forgot it and then had to be reminded of it, you know? I don't know if that makes sense. But also, it doesn't make me feel like, oh, I'm magically like better at that. It makes me more like thankful that like there's grace out there for me because inevitably I'm going to probably do that. I'm probably going to be complaining. I can be aware of it and try to not, but I'm probably going to do that. Like I'm probably going to be the grumbly guy in the desert. So isn't it cool that like amid that, with that in my personality, I don't know. I think it's cool that now I sound really ridiculous, but it's like I that's what's been going on in my mind. So, yep. Okay, this is a red dog. Do we want to do Clifford the big red dog? No. We're not going to make him like a red dog. But he's got to be like brighter red. I think like they are slightly saturated. I just don't think they're like that saturated. It's a cocker, so I want it to be brown. I do want it to be kind of a reddish dog, just not Clifford red, right? Because Clifford red would be a little too strong. How's that? Kind of more orange, but still, I think that would be a flush like dog, right? That works. Nose isn't going to be red though. Eyeballs aren't going to be red. Everything else, red. Autoimmune stuff sometimes affects my ability to use my legs and arms and brain. I try to be grateful for just having a functional body. Yeah, right? It's a great thing to, yeah, it's just great to be able to, you know. And I was even talking about that. It's like sometimes I mean, I've had times in my life where, like, I wasn't able to get out of bed. I was, like, so depressed, like, that was years back, but it's like I still remember those days vividly, and that's a cool thing. Being able to get out of bed is a cool thing. Um, it's just like there's a lot of things, so yeah. Because like, here's the thing, like, let's say I get, like so I have, like I've already gotten a cortisone shot in, like, one of my arms or hands or whatever. So let's say I have to get it again, and then eventually they have to like cut the tendons or whatever, and I don't have hand functionality. How much will I be annoyed with my past self for not like taking advantage of like the moments that I have to draw, right? Which is something I like love to do. I love comics. Like I, I, I'm lucky to be able to participate in comics. So yeah, I mean, I'd be an asshole not to like. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like, oh, pardon my language. But you know what I mean, right? It's like I guess maybe that's a wrong way to put it, but it's just like I'm not. I feel like there's days where you have really clear perspective, and um, days where it gets like muddled up. And today, I feel like I have really clear perspective. I kind of think the tongue can go. That's weird. I didn't expect that, but the rendering alone does it for that. Wow, this is getting there, guys. We have a plate of food. We have two. We can actually finish some of these. Oh my gosh. Okay. What color do I want to be literal with these ones where it's just. I think I do. I think I kind of do. I think I want to do one of these darker tones. Pops a little more. Maybe we want to go even darker. Maybe we want to go even darkest because this dark green, yeah, there we go. See? Nope. Never mind. Initially, I was like, see? And then I'm like, nope, that's not working. Hold on a second. Let me find like common tones that might create a value shift. There we go. There. Okay. Then we got to get inventive. Oh, that's smart. Jake was saying that's where you turn family into an apprenticeship. That's true. I just gotta train my kid in the ways of the force. Just be like, dude, you need to learn art of cartooning, kid. Um, in reality, he needs to stay far away from cartooning. uh, I'm kind of kidding. Again, I'm coming around to the idea. Like, I know this gets quoted all the time. Like, comics will break your heart and stuff, and that's true. The industry's got problems, stuff like that. But um, I don't know what's happened lately, but like, um, I'm enjoying comics. Like, I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm enjoying making them. That blue was the solution, but not. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I don't know. Um, I want to keep this perspective, but I don't think it's always easy to do. Um, I've mentioned my friend Alan's book, but I'm going to mention it again. There's a book that my friend Alan wrote called "You Are Not Your Own," and I recommend it for anyone interested in like theology. Um, but he's a good writer. He's I'm fortunate to call him a friend, you know. And I mean, you know, I think he's working on a possible other book from what I've talked to him about, and he's done lectures on this too. But there's a thing he's working on right now called On Getting Out of Bed, and he wrote an article like that too. Um and it's like, so the premise of this idea is that sometimes it's an act of worship just to get out of bed and exist. Like it's not always like trusting and having faith in God isn't always like doing these crazy huge things and like these epic movements. Sometimes it's just the act of like continuing to exist and trusting that God has a purpose. Like, and I think that's kind of a cool, I don't know, way to look at it. Because I think sometimes like people can get like really, even I can get that way where it's like God is just always, you know, I'm always happy and stuff. And it's like, no. Like there's days where it's probably an act of worship just to like to wake up, you know, and that's okay. I mean, there's even like Ecclesiastes about that got turned into like a Beatles song, you know, so like to every season or whatever, or for everything there is a season. Oh my goodness. Okay. So those magenta spots are going to wait. I'm going to go take a real quick. Oh, cool. Dee said, I bought it, Josh. It's in my stacks. Yeah. Let me know what you think. I think he's a really good writer. He wrote another one called Christ in Pop. Well, he edits Christ in Pop Culture. And now I'm being terrible and forgetting the title of his first book. But Disruptive Witness was his first book too, which is really good. And I figured you wrote Joa instead of Josh accidentally. That A is pretty close to the S on the keyboard, so no worries. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on the trailer for my graphic novel, 2 stories, and I'm gonna power this through. Like it's a little later than it should be, but it's like I really think it's important to power through this. I feel like that color just got like way more intense. I might have gone too saturated with that blue. Okay. Well, I'll take a look at it when I come back from my 2-second break. And here's the trailer for my graphic novel, 2 stories. Josh will be a little old man with wild Einstein hair in his old age. That's my aim. I'm growing this out because I have stopped caring. But I also kind of enjoy it. I used to have long hair years ago, and something around like during the lockdowns, I was like, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll just grow it out. And it's become like the beard thing where you just continually do that. And then eventually you're like, I don't know, I kind of like having a beard. It's fun. Anyhow, all right. So here we're gonna okay. So here we're gonna play 2 stories trailer, and I will be shortly back. So this and I'll see you guys in a second. So that was the trailer from around Christmas. And so obviously it's not Christmas time. And it's probably a little weird juxtaposed with my like optimism today to like see my comic that talks about depression and mental illness, um but I don't know, it's like I that's also the dichotomy of being like an autobiographical cartoonist, right? You're going to talk about different topics and, and some of them will be different points in your life. um so let's see here. I will say that might also uh like the second volume of two stories is really heavy, and so I kind of feel like that's been a fun thing about this process too. That blue was way too saturated, by the way, so I toned it back. um but I will say it's so fun to work on something outside of the autobio slice of life genre for a little bit. Like uh, I think I think by the time I'm done with this, it's gonna feel like I can just hit the rest of two stories because I'm like 20 something pages into that and everything's mapped out for it. So I think I'll be able to hit it like with full force. Um and that's gonna feel like a change of pace, after 200 of these. Oh, another thing that kind of brought on this like thankfulness. Um, I had a big win today, like that I can't even talk about, but it was like a big win. I can't explain that too much, but it was like something I've worked really hard for at my day job, and it just everything worked out. Like it was like if you daydreamed a perfect scenario for something, and it just happened like that. And the weird thing is, being a flawed person, like even this comic, right? Like being a flawed person and being aware of the amount of talent that's out there in art. I am under no assumption, like I will take full credit for the fact that I've worked really hard, but I'm under no assumption that I like somehow earned this. Like, and sometimes maybe I'll be under that delusion, but that's not really true. Um, today I just got like given something cool that I worked really hard at, but there was nothing I did that could earn the outcome of it going so swimmingly well. It was God. It was like totally God. Um, and I'm convinced of that. So that's another thing where I'm just like where I was thinking about the manna thing that I was reading to my kid yesterday. And I was realizing, I think I was feeling cocky for like 5 minutes after a I'll just say a very successful meeting. Um, and and then the reality of it hit where I was just realizing it's all God's mercy. Like it had nothing to do with my good works or anything I did. Like uh, there's so many people struggling, and and like here I'm getting manna from heaven and I'm complaining and I'm being bitter and I'm getting grumpy about like working on comics, and I don't even like, here's the thing, I don't even judge myself for that too much because I'm not being judged by that. But then even that reality kind of hit me where I'm like, that's crazy that I'm not being judged by that. Now, is that all delusion? I don't think so. um, but it was just a beautiful moment today where I just feel very thankful and corny for saying it. But yeah, that's what brought that on. Was like just realizing like I'm not the best artist I know at all. Like I'm not the most talented cartoonist I know. I've worked really hard, but I know people who've worked equally as hard who have like 20 times more talent. Um and yet like, you know, I'm I don't know. I'm being blessed with things, and it's kind of undeserved and cool. Yeah, that's a good point, Dee. It's like that. It's like the favor of the Lord. I have no idea why, because it's like I by no means like do I deserve it, but it's like the breathing thing, right? Like that's the favor of the Lord. Like when I wake up and I breathe, um, like that's where my mind should be. That's what I'm getting at. Like believing what I believe, that's where my mind should be. When I wake up in the morning, I should be thankful that I'm breathing, you know? And like that in itself is the favor of the Lord. Like it doesn't even have to be like a cool thing happening in life. It's like it's just the natural outflow from what I believe is that this is really corny, but it's like the natural outflow from what I believe just should naturally follow that I should be I owe worship to like the thing that the being that is allowing me to breathe. Like I just owe that. Like just but in nature of existing. Because the existence in itself is so fundamentally like indebted to the thing that allowed that or the being that allowed that to happen, right? Um it's cool. I don't know. It's nerdy. Holy crap. Adam said I tried for the 200th time and finally my computer came back to life. Save your files. I hope you have an external, Adam. Use an external hard drive. Make sure you got your stuff backed up, buddy. We don't want you losing that great artwork. Ah. That was me selecting the wrong thing. Sorry. I hope I didn't make you guys jump or something. I also need to get these papers that are on her desk. Because she's a poet and she doesn't even realize it, you guys. Who made that joke for the first time? Does anybody know where that joke comes from? I have been quoting that joke for so long that I forgot its origin. And I'm wondering if that's just a common like dad joke that I'm a poet and didn't even realize it. Because, yeah. I mean, the bit being you're doing the unobvious, even though it's obvious. Like everybody thinks you're going to do the poet doesn't know it. But I'm like, when did that when did that enter into my brain? Like that's implanted somewhere. Um, how did that get there, right? Like where does that come from? If you guys know, let me know. So I don't want to know the origin of the poet and don't know it because I think that's just been around forever. But I'm more curious about the poet and didn't even realize it. The riff on it that doesn't rhyme. Because I think that's a bit by a comedian, and I feel bad if I'm not like crediting them. Jake said a bad meme indeed. Jake, you've watched my streams long enough. Be fair here. Almost every time I use humor, I'm indulging in terrible dad jokes and bad memes. I don't, you know, I don't think I would have had a shot. Like I could probably kind of maybe hang in a writer's room for like a week. But if I was like having to do like stand up or something like that, I'd get buried. Like I'm not um like Jim Luhan is naturally funny. He'll indulge in like dumb jokes every once in a while, but in general, like Jim can go like multi levels deep on humor. Um, I can't. I think I have a sense of humor, but it's like I don't. I wouldn't make the claim that I'm like funny. Oh, nice. Jake said my career is built on dad humor, and I haven't even sired. Well, to be honest, honest confession, Jake, I think most of us have like bad dad jokes, and just being a dad gives you this like excuse to just unapologetically go there. Like you no longer need the excuse. You can just make them, and people naturally, you get the pass of being a dad at that point. I think that's the dark secret about dad jokes is dad jokes are just jokes that like people like, and then they have kids and they're allowed to say. Adam said, "I'm too self conscious about doing stand up on a stage, so I wrote a story where my character does stand up." The D word pass. That's what Jake was. That's my theory. That's my conspiracy theory. I mean, I think there's a connection there, right? I'm gonna go with. Luckily, I didn't draw this bookshelf like a million times. Although I will tell you guys, like, this is gonna suck because this bookshelf with these items is on the next page like a million times. So, oh man, it's the. Do I have to do all the books? Do I have to? Yes, I do. It's like where the artist kind of kicks the crap out of the guy who's like, I'm gonna take the shortcut. Nope, you got to do it. Got to do that bookshelf. Got to do the entire freaking bookshelf, dudes. Okay, first I'm gonna do a real quick trick. Again, I like to work deductively, so I'm like, we're gonna deduct. Wait a minute. Is this deductively or reductively? It's like close to 3 in the morning, so I need somebody to help me with that one. Because I guess we're reducing, we're not deducing. This would be reductive. Adam was saying the reason I can tell messed up jokes is because the character said it and I don't have to take credit for them. I feel like stand-up's a whole different thing too, because like it's one thing to be funny around like people who are friends and you're comfortable around, and you kind of know the limits and stuff like that. It's another to like on demand, like get up on a stage and be funny. Like I, I mean, I admire the hell out of that because like that requires so much bravery. I can like if I go on stage with like an instrument, that's okay. Even then you have a little bit of nerves, right, before going, but, like, just being up there with a mic and riffing, that's, like that's a nerve wrack I mean, that sounds like yeah, that sounds really nerve-wracking. And again, I think, like, even, like, doing a comic book or whatever, like, hey, I'll give credit to, like, a badly done comic over a not done comic that's talked about all the time. And similarly, like, man, if somebody's, like, a comedian and they're getting on a stage, funny or not, like I give them credit for like, hey, you know what? Like you got on the stage. Like at least they got on the stage. Um so like mad credit to people who have the skill to do that. I think there's a different kind of there's definitely people who I think could write comedy but wouldn't be able to hold like a candle. Like I could probably write comedy. I can form a joke in text that pays off, and I kind of understand roughly the idea of like tagging an idea and the repetition that's involved and like how to kind of build towards a punchline or have some humor. But it's like um for me it's like more of like I think if anything, if I were to ever do anything in comedy, it would be like writing. And I think even then I'd probably be like the lowest form of comedy where it's just like I would go to like just the stupid humor, like straight up stupid humor. That's, that like if I were to write something funny, yeah. Okay. Family and friends can be the worst yes men and yes women. On the flip side, they can't stop smiling. Yeah. Streaming live is getting on the stage. Nice. That's true. That's true. I'm here all night, guys. Ooh, that was a happy accident there. I didn't realize that was the color that was going to be till it became it. That worked. Okay. I'm starting to lose steam. I'm going to throw the Jacob's Apartment trailer, and then we're going to finish flatting those books, and then I'm going to go to sleep. But I'm going to throw up the Jacob's Apartment trailer, get a refill of my coffee, so I can last this very last leg. But look at that. We've made progress. Yes, I do. And Dee Dee was like, do you have to go to work today? Yes, I do. But I also absolutely have to finish this because if this isn't done, I'm very behind. If this is done, I'm like right on schedule with my publisher. So ooh, this might be a hard one, but that's okay. That's the cost. Okay, I'll be right back. We're gonna throw this on. I will say, hell or high water. I think 3:45 will be the hell or high water, done or not time. All right, here we go, guys. Jacob's Apartment trailer. If you haven't pre-ordered it, make sure you pre-order it. I showed at the top. The neat thing about the final copies that I received, I looked on the binding, right? And generally with like a cheaply perfect brown book, which isn't bad, it's going to be just flat on the binding. A really quality soft cover book will be bound, perfect bound, like in the same way that a hardcover is, where it's done in signatures. So you'll see these little, like, you'll see like each signature, it's usually in like groups of 16 pages where they kind of round out. And so it'll almost like look like a little upside down like W. So it's like the McDonald's logo, but like upside down. So you'll see these little golden arches, but there's like 50 of them or 10 of them or 5 of them. Anyhow, Jacob's Apartment has that. So it's like a really quality book. I was, as a book nerd, I was super geeked out by that. And I've probably lost all interest from people at that point by saying that. But anyhow, I'm just saying, like, if you're into quality books, pre-order Jacob's Apartment. Graphic Mundi is printing really quality books. And I feel like the printing is pretty exciting on it. Okay, here is the trailer for it, and I will be shortly back. And I really appreciate you guys hanging while I'm bearing through and finishing this page. All right, here we go. Speak clearly, it seems that only in dreams can we these things we've seen and walk around breathing things. right, so we're back, and now I'm just flatting these books. And I'm gonna try to do it to where they're kind of random, but it's gonna look a little more natural. So we're using a lot of the book covers from the previous um, thing, and so I'm gonna just kind of randomly start process of eliminating out some of these. And luckily, I can kind of roughly do this with just like the rectangle tool, which is great. This would be a pain in the butt from a different angle. So I'm almost wanting to high five my past self for arranging the page like that without realizing. Um, and at this point, I might be getting through it. Adam said, "Is Elliott Smith an influence on your music?" I love Elliott Smith. I think um, so there's certain bands that are constantly in rotation for me, and Elliott Smith is like one that like I know a lot of people might find it like really depressing. I find it like really encouraging. Elliott Smith was like actually probably an influence on Two Stories as well. I just found it really refreshing. um, his music's so candid and honest, and there's like a sincerity to it that I absolutely admire. So yes, yeah, he's an influence on my music and on my writing, for Two Stories for sure. Like, um, it's like I think like there's a lot of times where like musician deaths happen. Like weirdly enough, even like Kurt Cobain or whatever when I was younger, and I wasn't like I've never been one of those people who like celebrity deaths like impact me heavily because I mean, like JD Salinger died, and that's like one of my favorite writers, and it didn't like hit this like immense amount. I mean, it's sad, but it's like I didn't know the guy. Elliott Smith was one of those ones where like I felt like I knew the guy, like, um, and maybe that had something to do with like his transparency. But yeah, so really good question, but like I can't explain it, but like um there's like a chord he hits, like, and also, um, I don't know if people are aware of like what a killer guitarist he is, like, or was. So just like, I mean, I can't hold a candle to his guitar work, you know. I the other morning I kind of woke up early and was like giving a crack at Angelus, and it's like I'm doing like a campfire version of it because like there's no way I can do that finger picking like it's like he was and I remember seeing Beck a couple years back, like I think it was after Sea Change came out. And he did a cover of Elliott Smith because I think he might have known Elliott Smith. But anyhow, he did a cover of oh my gosh, which song? Oh, Sweet Clementine, um, which is Elliott Smith's kind of riff on the Oh My Darling Clementine, but he does like a new folk song that's about the same Clementine, but it's like a riff on it. And like even Beck, like who's actually like he's a pretty good guitarist himself. But he was saying like there's no way he's gonna nail it because like it's just impossible to play song. um, yeah, there's just little nuances to what he would do, even in live performances where he's like drugged out of his mind and like not playing to his best. He was still outplaying most guitarists. Like it and then just a phenomenal songwriter. So that was me gushing about Elliott Smith. Who would have thought I write like emo type books and I like Elliott Smith? Yeah, I'm predictable. Adam was saying most of it's too depressing for me to listen to, but I used to listen to a lot, and he influenced a couple of albums I wrote. I have really negative associations mainly. Some people here in town were friends with him, and I participated in a tribute show for him. Sea Change is so good, one of my all-time favorite albums. Nick Drake is up there in the depression tunes. Nick Drake is great. Um, I also think like Nick Drake's another one of those guys. The way he plays guitar is he Nick Drake's great. Um, I think the way he approaches folk, like he has just a unique. It's hard to explain, but it's like a different cadence to the way, like a different tempo. Like it's a very unique Nick Drake sound to the way he plays his guitar and strums it, and it's fascinating and awesome, and it's like it's solely his, and like how many musicians can say that, you know? It's like I can't even imagine being able to say that you defined like something completely new, not derivative at all. Like, I mean, it's got influences in it, but it's like, you know, you listen to like Dylan, who's another one of those guys who like, I don't give a crap if somebody talks crap about Dylan. They just don't understand music. I'm gonna be a snob and say that. I can understand somebody saying like they're not into his voice. Even then, I'm kind of like I don't know if they understand music, but whatever. Point being, Dylan was like, I mean, he's just one of those guys, like just on a different level, um, playing his own thing. And sure, it like derived from a lot of like traditional folk, but it just he defined like a totally new thing that like nobody had done. Um, I think Nick Drake's like right there. And what's funny is he was doing that like quite a lot of it like alongside the era of Dylan, and he was like doing folk in just a way that like no one did. Like no one had ever approached it that way. If they have, like I'm unaware of it, you know. But you know, it's weird. I'll actually say like another band that does guitar work in this like really unique way, and I feel is like underrated is like the Violent Femmes. I actually think the Violent Femmes are like I know they're famous, but like I think they should be more famous. Is that weird? But yeah, I like that. But what's weird is I'm weird with depressing stuff. I take comfort in stuff that expresses depression. Like I don't know if that makes sense. Like I feel like when maybe I'm wired weird, but it's like when I'm super depressed, what'll like really depress me is like a crappy sitcom that's like everybody's happy in. That that to me that's like that's more depressing to me. I don't know when I'm in it, you know, when I'm like really in the throes of it. Um, but I also might be weird like that. Like I've always been a person who takes comfort in well expressed sorrow. Oh my gosh. I'm getting dark, you guys. Okay, so but I can also understand like I think I might be unusual in that way. Because I know a lot of people who like they just can't do it, you know. Especially Elliott Smith, because Elliott Smith is notoriously like some of the most depressing music ever written. You know, very confessional. And I knew some people in the Northwest who knew him as well. And I think if you really know the guy, like obviously that's going to take on a whole different weight. Like if he were a friend, like the weird thing is it broke me up when he passed, but I didn't know the guy. I mean, I felt like I knew the guy, but I didn't actually know him. I think if I actually knew him, I don't know if I could handle it, you know. So there's that. Adam said, "What you said about upbeat sitcoms is true of my friend Jonah." Like an upbeat teen movie or something is devastating to him. Dee Dee said, "I'm overly sensitive to music. I'm very selective and mostly prefer silence when working or a stream in the background." Um, Jake, if we're talking about haunting stuff, though, Wesley Willis in whenever the robbery episode is involved is a cascading echo looping over and over. Oh, I think let's see. Um, now I'm blanking out. Oh my gosh. Elvis Perkins, Ash Wednesday. That's a devastating album. I don't know if you guys have heard it. He's got like a really sad biography too. I I'm kind of a fan of sad music, so like I'm like if we want to open the topic, but it's an incredible album, but it's like, man, that album will like I don't know, the first time I heard that, I think I might have actually cried. Um and I don't know. It's funny because I have this side of me that likes like really hard punk rock and stuff like that, and then a side of me that just likes like really sad folk music, that like the guy from Animal House would like break somebody's guitar over their head for listening to. Um I'm like somewhere in this weird space where I like all of it. Oh, Jake said that's a hard listen, yeah. And I mean, it's like it's I guess I also like I mean, it's weird. I guess I don't always consume that type of thing. I'm not always in the mood for that type of thing, but at the same time, I think if I didn't like that genre, I probably wouldn't write in it. Like I kind of delve into that territory. So like to me, I think if I weren't fascinated by it, I probably wouldn't be um kind of like writing uh really like super vulnerable dark stuff. I like the darkness sometimes. I like to head into the darkness and come out okay, you know. But I definitely can understand because if like somebody can't head into the darkness without coming out of it, like yeah, there's definitely times where like I'm just not, yeah. Even with my take on it, like there's times where it's just not. Ooh, good example. Chris Ware books devastate me. Devastate me. I don't know, you know, I don't know if they hit people on the same note. I think why I like Chris Ware so much is like there's an emotional truth to his work that is just it's like crippling. It's so heavy to me. It's like a Charlie Kaufman movie. Like Charlie Kaufman does that to me too. I don't know why, but it's just like they're like strumming this note that's like in my soul and it's painful. Um so with Chris Ware books, they're so heavy for me. I have to like if he comes out with a new book, I have to kind of plan it because I definitely can't just and it's funny, I have a friend who loves Chris Ware's stuff and the building stories, he can't get through that book. Like he was just telling me, he was like, I just can't do this because I have a daughter and it's so it was so heavy and true about like some of just the tough things about growing up for a young girl that like he just thought he didn't he kept picturing his daughter having to go through growing up and stuff, and it was like heartbreaking for him. It's like I don't know, like yeah, so I wouldn't like judge him for not reading it because it's like man, that's you know while I get impacted by it, it's like I could get through it. But that doesn't make me like a better reader or whatever. It's just like there's some darkness we can face, there's some we can't. I had a weird thing happen. There's some cool stuff in the chats too. I want to after I finish this thought, I'll address them. But it's one of the things is like I kind of think like there's territories I can't head into. It's weird stuff. Like since being a parent, I'm watching like an action film or like like, and this is a trope in most action movies where like a kid's in danger or something. Um, I like it'll cause me like mass anxiety. Whereas like before, good example. I think when Ben was like, this was like, I don't know, he was like maybe like 2 or something. Like my wife and I, like after he was in bed, like we watched The Untouchables. And there's like a corny scene in it. I mean, it's very dramatic. Like it's kind of iconic in film, but it's like very dramatic and kind of overdone. And I always found it kind of corny before I had a kid, but it's like there's this big shootout scene where Elliot Ness is like um having like a shootout, and then a baby carriage starts going down the stairs, and so there's these people, they're in a gunfight, and then Elliot Ness is trying to like save the baby carriage, but also like, not get killed himself and like take out his target or whatever. And so it's like this intense scene where you're watching all of this happen at once. We started and I got like a second into it and I'm like, okay, I can't. It just caused like mass anxiety. Like I was just like, I just can't even. I know it's like a suspense device, but it's like it now I get it because that actually works. Like I just can't. And it's weird because I know it's kind of stupid. Like it's just a movie, but I don't know, something changed in me, and, like, now, like, that is if you wanna make, like, somebody corny like me, really nervous during, like, a TV show or an action sequence, you just put a kid in danger. It'll cause me so much anxiety, I can't even like, in your script or story, right? It's like, it just causes me so much anxiety, I can't even watch it, you know? That's that's a weird thing. I didn't see that. I didn't expect that to happen. Um I don't know if that's a common thing. There's another thing on Netflix too recently where it was like within like the first 5 seconds, it's like some fantasy movie or something, but I think like the kid's supposed to be like an orphan, and so it's like the first 5 seconds of the movie, like the kid gets in a car crash or something and his parents die. Again, I know it's a fiction thing, but I saw like 5 seconds of it, I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that movie. It's weird. Um Uh, can you guys remember the last time you laughed so hard you cried? I would say the last time I laughed so hard I cried was the last stream that I we did with Jim Luhan. There's something about Jim. He just hits these. Honestly, Jim, Corey, and Scott have an ability to crack me up, to where I will start tearing up a little bit because we just know each other pretty well. You guys, I I cannot believe this, but like see, I don't like the color of the dog though. And also I have to finish the blanket. Okay, never mind. We're not done yet. I feel like the dog is not working, so let's turn it into a blue dog. No, I'm just kidding. Hold on. Let's work out this dog color here. That's more like it, but less orange, but like it's just hard. It's hard to get those, like, subtle tones, and, like, but I don't want them, like, muted, and I don't want them, like, Mr. Saturated. I think maybe if I look at it without the lines. Okay. Like a value, part of the problem is it's the same value as the blanket. So let's get it, like, but I don't want him to be brown. He needs to be, like, red. He's flush. Too saturated. Okay, let's see if that works. That works a little better from. Is that the same exact color? Jake said the dog is keeping you away from the bed. Um, What's funny is the bed will be keeping me away from the bed. Like, I have to do you see the pattern that's on her blankets? This is one of the things that's annoying about sequential work. Like, no matter how often I do this, by the time I'm at the final pass, there was something missing. And yet it's fascinating about sequential work because there's so many challenges. Like, I have a pattern on a blanket. I don't get to just illustrate it once. I and it's and I'm kind of married to that pattern because it's in the history. Um, it's the blanket she had. Like, it's just, I don't know. The nerd in me has to have it. If I have like a historical document showing that that's what her blanket looked like, I'm like, I gotta do that blanket, you know. Um, but now I had forgotten this key thing, right? To have that, so now it's like, ironically, the bed is keeping me from bed. How's that for some irony? I was at least 10 years since I laughed so hard that I cried, but the other day I did some random monkey video. Well, here's another thing that's weird. And Adam, this might start happening to you. I don't know if this is just like as men get older or whatever, like that are that we get more sappy. But I definitely like choke up and get like um more emotional about things than I used to. Um, and I've always been like a somewhat emotional person, but it's like I think there's something weird that happened. I think it was in my 30s where that part of me started like unlocking more. And maybe that's just literally testosterone, like being less. I don't know, because I have heard that that actually happens as you get older. As a man, you kind of get softer. Like, um, it's why like a lot of fathers that like, I am really cognizant of this, and I've made a conscious effort, as a dad to be the dad that's like gonna, I don't want to overly coddle my kid, but I'm definitely gonna be the father who like does not shy away from being like telling my son I love him and that he's awesome, and I don't want to be like that toxically masculine dad that's just like not letting his kid know he loves him. But there are all these tales of, and I had luckily I didn't have a father like that. My father was very, um, and I'm thankful, right? Because my father's not around. So like he may not have um, been able to reach that point that a lot of the guys who have trouble sharing that, like quite often when they get older, you'll see this with a lot of fathers when they get older, like when they're finally like 70 or something, that's when like a father will open up and be like, I never said I love you, but I love you to their kid, and it's like it's like um it's good that like to not wait for that, especially if you have a kid, because it's like, who knows, man. I mean, you may not make it to that age to soften up and um but anyhow, my point is like I do get like way more easily choked up over things that like, you know, years ago I was it's kind of like when I was in junior high, I could read like super ultra violent stuff. Like I could watch like the most horrifically violent like horror movie and just like not be affected by it at all. Whereas like, the older I get, the more it's like, no, that like intense violence, um possibly because you just as you get older, you see real violence and, like, it's really like, the reality of it, like, hits home. It's not like some plaything, in your head. I don't know. Anyhow, I'm rambling, but I'm saying, like, you might be surprised, but you might find that you'll laugh more, fully and freely, as you age. I know that's strange to say, but I think that's one nice thing about, like, for me, that's one of the nice things I've found, but then again, I might be assuming I don't know, but it just made me think of that. Adam said, "I tear up from random movies and stuff more easily." Yeah, it totally does. Um, It's hard to say. I think laughing so hard you cry is like also sometimes it just happens when something's like hilarious. Um, but also I think in comedy, like um, there's certain comedy that hits home for me. The thing that doesn't make me laugh a ton, and might just be me, um, and I've noticed like this is also a taste thing. Some people like my wife has different taste in humor than I do for like movies and stuff. So like my wife will watch like I mean, we have common humor too, right? Like, Monty Python and like silly stuff and like that kind of thing. But there's like a certain dry, almost like harsh humor, especially stand-up type humor that will just kill me. Like it's hilarious to me, but my wife doesn't find it really funny. But then she'll watch something that's like uh slapstick humor and just it gets her on this level that like it's like that laugh so hard you cry kind of laughter. Um and just don't find like most slapstick humor. I mean, unless we're talking like Ministry of Silly Walks, because you just have to be like a lunatic to not find that hilarious. But a lot of like slapstick humor, like it just doesn't hit me the same way. Like, which is weird, But I've never been a guy who like I don't know. There's like YouTube videos of like people getting like eating it or um like somebody will like jump for a trampoline and miss it or something. And there's a whole bunch of people who like find that kind of thing hilarious. And I just like I don't know what it is. But anyhow, my point is there's also taste in humor that comes into it too, right? Where maybe something just hit that magic premise, like that spot that like Elliott Smith does for me, where it's like there's just a language that Elliott Smith's like there's a resonance that Elliott Smith is communicating in that like for me just really um talks to me. I don't know. Adam said I feel like nothing really surprises me anymore, so it's hard to laugh that hard. Yeah, the surprise laugh. So the laughing so hard I cry isn't always because of surprise, but a surprised laugh, that's a real hard one to get from me. um I just had this I'm gonna check it out, but so my friend who one of my friends who's a college teacher had one of his students who's like a cartoonist and just finished their first comic like send it my way. And I haven't read it yet, but that student prefaced it by saying like it's a little shocking but interesting, so I think you'll like it. Here's the weird thing. I have a suspicion I'm going to read the comic and it's not going to really shock me. Cuz I mean, I read like I think it's like a horror comic and it's like I've read EC horror comics and I've read like Red Room by Ed Piskor and like I mean, point being like I don't know if it's gonna be as shocking as they think it is, for me. Similarly, like being surprised by a joke, like that's a harder laugh to get, but that's a really well-earned laugh. Like, if you can, um a good example would be, like, the first person to take the "I'm a poet and didn't know it," and then turn it on its head and say, I'm a poet and didn't realize it. That was probably a real surprise laugh. The first time somebody did that. That's not going to be a surprise laugh now, but I think it would have to be like something on that level where it would be such a twist on the expected. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think people who can do that masterfully and get like a very large group of people to do that. That's those comedians, that are like worthy. You guys, I finished flatting the page. I'm feeling good about it. it's feeling pretty good. I mean, I think we're there. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to go to bed. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. And just, it's super fun. Dee Dee, Adam, um, Jake, thank you guys for keeping me company. Also, I will encourage everybody, if you're watching this after the fact, make sure you check out everybody's work and YouTube channels as well that are in the chats. Like, these are very talented, awesome people, all doing art stuff and being creative. And I pride myself in the fact that, like, these live streams are always joined by like really fun, cool artists. So make sure you're checking out their stuff. Also, make sure you've hit the subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications when I'm about to go live. And then also, I mean, if you're in like the Toronto area at the end of June, I'll be signing at TCAF copies of Jacob's Apartment, which you should pre-order from Graphic Mundi. And also make sure you pick up 2 stories, which touches on a lot of the topics that we were kind of delving into about like depression and like sad stories and why I enjoy stories that talk openly about like kind of taboo topics that a lot of people don't. Dee Dee, again, I really appreciate it. Man, so generous. Thank you. Thanks for the super chat, and you guys sleep well as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys probably tonight. Or I'll see. I definitely am going to try to do a Saturday morning stream as well. So have a good night, guys, and I'll see you again shortly. Bye.